Okay, so let's just jump right in. Picture this. The world is literally 1 hour away from a massive, devastating war between two global powers. That's the knife's edge we're talking about today, as we break down the incredible story of Pakistan's last-minute intervention that managed to pull the US and Iran back from the absolute brink. So just how close did we come? Well, according to the reports we're looking at, the world was just 60 minutes, 60, away from a full-scale US attack on Iran. I mean, just think about that. In the time it takes you to watch an episode of your favorite show, the entire world could have been plunged into a truly catastrophic conflict. Tensions were an absolute fever pitch. But that didn't happen. The clock was stopped. So the big question is, how? How did the world manage to step back from that edge? Let's get into the absolutely wild 11th hour intervention that changed everything. This timeline just shows you how fast this all went down. We're at T-minus 1 hour, a US attack is about to launch. Then, boom, this urgent call comes in. You have Pakistan's Prime Minister and Field Marshal getting President Trump on the line. They ask for a pause. And incredibly, he says yes, agreeing to a 2-week extension. And just like that, a ceasefire is agreed upon, a full-blown war averted in the span of a single hour. It's just truly remarkable stuff. So that's the frantic, behind-the-scenes scramble. But what about the public side of things? How did this play out on the world stage? Well, this is where we get into what our source calls Pakistan's diplomatic masterstroke. And here's how the US presented it. This quote is really key. Notice the wording. It's a halt, not a full-on retreat. And the justification? We have already achieved all our military objectives. You know, this kind of language is crucial in diplomacy. It allowed the US to pause the attack without looking like they were backing down, which, let's be honest, was essential for this whole thing to work. In Pakistan, they didn't miss the beat. They immediately jumped on the diplomatic initiative. With this invitation to Islamabad, Prime Minister Sharif was basically saying, we're not just the emergency helpline, we're the hosts for the long-term solution. It was a really powerful signal that Pakistan was ready to see this through to the end. And believe me, the world was watching. Over 1 million views on the Prime Minister's tweet in just 40 minutes. That's not just, a viral post. That is the sound of the entire planet breathing one massive collective sigh of relief, all in real time. And that feeling of relief wasn't just on social media. Oh no, it hit the global markets, and it hit them hard. Let's take a look at the immediate economic impact of this ceasefire. So, who was the biggest winner here, at least right away? You can make a strong case for the global economy. I mean, think about it. The prospect of war in a major oil-producing region is a recipe for financial chaos. So pulling back from that sent this huge wave of positive relief rippling through the markets. And you can see that relief spelled out right here in the price of oil. WTI and Brent crude, these are the big global benchmarks that affect prices for, well, pretty much everyone. And they just plummeted. A 13% drop. That is a massive move in the oil market. It really shows you just how much that fear of war was jacking up prices for all of us. And here's the bottom line, the real-world number. Brent crude settling at $95 a barrel. Now, that's a number that affects everything, right? From what you pay for gas to the cost of shipping, pretty much anything, anywhere. A direct, tangible financial consequence of some really successful diplomacy. Okay, so the markets were happy, but what about everyone else? What was the global reaction to what some were calling Pakistan's diplomatic coup? Let's dig in. Well, all of a sudden, Pakistan wasn't just a regional player anymore. It was the top story around the world. I mean, look at this list. From CNN and the BBC to Fox News, Al Jazeera, and major Arab media, everyone was covering this. It put Pakistan's diplomatic efforts front and center on a global stage. And it wasn't just the professional talking heads either. Online, this hashtag Shukriya Pakistan, which means thank you Pakistan, it started trending globally. This felt like a genuine, grassroots thank you from people all over the world for helping pull us all back from a really scary situation. And that praise was being echoed at the highest levels of diplomacy. This quote here from the British High Commissioner is really telling. She specifically credits Pakistan's quiet diplomacy. That shows you that other world powers were not only taking notice, but they were also publicly acknowledging that Pakistan's strategy had worked. But amidst all the celebration, all the relief, a really crucial question was hanging in the air. Was this a real, lasting peace? Or was it just a temporary pause in a much bigger game? let's look at the complicated reality on the ground. This slide really lays out the central paradox of the whole situation. On one hand, you have this absolutely monumental US-Iran ceasefire, right? A huge diplomatic victory. But on the other hand, the source we're drawing from reports that other fires were still burning. We're talking simultaneous Israeli attacks on Iran and Iranian attacks on Saudi oil facilities. It's a really sobering reminder that even though the main event might have been canceled, some of the undercard fights were still very much raging. So, where does that leave us? Look, Pakistan clearly achieved a historic diplomatic victory. There's just no question about that. But with all these other regional fires still burning, we're left with this one big, lingering question. Was this the beginning of a real, lasting peace, or was it just a brief moment of calm in the middle of a much, much larger storm?